memory loss, aliens, being buried alive, and then going into grave digging. The creative concepts just keep coming out from the indie horror developer Authogin. But what's inside the mind of this developer? Well, we're gonna find out. And the first question I had to ask him was this: what inspired you to start creating horror games? What aspects of the genre do you find most captivating?
Watching reactions to horror games on Twitch and YouTube is really what made me want to make horror games. I enjoyed watching people get terrified over the games and wanted to be a part of that. Horror is just one of those genres that make me feel something. It is exciting and thrilling when you are watching a film or playing a game and truly feel uncomfortable or fearful for what is about to happen. Most other genres do not really affect me as much, so I was not interested in making something outside of horror.
And I love the fact that he said that, because it's the same reason why I'm so passionate about horror games, is the fact that they make you feel something, whether it's uncomfortable or creeped out or just flat out scared. It makes you feel. It makes you go through a sort of cathartic process. So that's awesome to hear that he was seeing all this and went, I want to do that. So of course, to follow up with all of this, my next question was, where do you draw inspiration for the games you create? Is there a particular source that has significantly influenced your work? And if so, what is it?
At the time of making Confabulation, I saw a lot of people playing the Spot the Difference horror games, like I'm on Observation Duty and others, and they were a lot of fun to watch. I thought I could add a twist on that type of game by having the player walking around the environment and having to spot the differences that way while also having to solve puzzles. After that game, I wanted to have a sequel that featured aliens because I really enjoyed the movie Signs as a kid, and I believe there are just not enough alien-themed horror games out there, so I wanted to take a shot at making one. After that, I have just been wanting to come up with interesting and unique ideas. I do not want to be making the same game type over and over with variations to each new entry. I want to explore my creativity by trying new things and still putting out something fun and terrifying for people to enjoy. Buried was an idea I had midway into Confabulation Homestead development, and I knew I wanted it to be a short and sweet game for Halloween, but I also wanted to see the reaction of me trying out something different. It went well, to say the least, so I am going to continue following that path with the Gravedigger.
Now, he talks about Confabulation and Confabulation Homestead, which I actually played and absolutely enjoyed. I was so surprised because it was from a developer I had never heard of initially. And so I was like, this looks interesting, sounds interesting, definitely interesting name. Let's jump into it and see what this is all about. And I was so thoroughly impressed by the intricacies, the depth of the puzzles, and the experience that it added on to the overall journey we had within this world. And then from there to add on also the spot the difference mechanics, which was really cool, and also added on a lot of stress, but in a good way, a lot of tension. You know, you're trying to juggle multiple things. I need to figure out the answers to these puzzles, but at the same time, did something change in the hallway? Did something change in the bathroom? I need to run there and find out. So with that, I asked him, what challenges did you face while developing the Spot the Difference mechanics for the Confabulation series?
The Spot the Difference mechanic was actually pretty easy to put together. The most difficult part for me was creating unique puzzles that get people thinking. While not making them so difficult, people get angry at me. The first Confabulation had a lot of interesting puzzles that you initially cannot tell is one, but when you do it, is hopefully satisfying to complete. This worked well because of your character's memory loss and their medication abuse. I could make anything I wanted into a puzzle. With Confabulation Homestead, I wanted to keep it more grounded in reality. Your character is not suffering from any ailments or addictions, and is unfortunately the target of an alien abduction. This is why most of the puzzles in this game are puzzle boxes, locks, and codes.
And because there's so much going on with these games, from the puzzles to the changes in the environment to that looming dread of some sort of entity coming near you, whether it be a demon or an alien, my next follow-up question to him was, can you share any memorable moments or player reactions from the release of Confabulation and its sequel?
This is my favorite reaction I have seen when the game first released by the streamer Mr. Tabout.
We did. On est mort. On est mort. Holy fuck! Pardon.
This is probably the funniest bug that occurred to Mally Martian in Confabulation, and I was not going to fix it.
How is this? What the fuck? No, that was... what the... I don't even know how that happened. I don't have one spot. You're scaring me now. Oh, the game's evolving on its own.
But really, just watching people play something I created has been surreal.
For me, playing Confabulation was a hell of a lot of fun and was super addictive. And I feel like what he did is he learned so much from the puzzles and from juggling the puzzles to the changes in the environment to the entities appearing that he took that and amplified it in Confabulation Homestead. So I asked him, what was the process like for making the puzzles in Confabulation Homestead both challenging and engaging for players? What were your favorite puzzles, or what was your favorite puzzle in the game?
They were challenging to make, mostly because it can be difficult to come up with interesting and unique ideas after making so many puzzles. I am torn between the dinosaur shelf puzzle and the upstairs adult bedroom light puzzle box being my favorite. The dinosaur shelf puzzle was inspired by my partner, as she loves dinosaurs, and I had the opportunity to add them into my game in a fun way. All the different squeaks they made was very fun, and you could carry around one of the unused dinosaurs for the rest of your playthrough. The upstairs adult bedroom light puzzle box, that's a lot to say, is my favorite puzzle mechanically. I had a lot of fun making that one work, and it definitely stumped people the most of any puzzle in the game. The hard difficulty version of it also was very intimidating to most people who first saw it, so it was exciting to watch the few who did complete it get so excited about it.
It's one of those puzzles where you can definitely overthink it, and it does take a little bit of time of trial and error to figure it out, and I really like that as well, so I'm really glad that he brought those up. So I mentioned to him that the next game you're releasing is entitled The Gravedigger, where you juggle between desecrating graves to steal valuables while attempting to find bones for a ritual to stop the demonic activity within said graveyard. That is a statement I never thought I would say out loud or bring up to anyone. But here we are now. You gotta love indie horror games. But with that, I said, well, what sparked the idea of juggling between desecrating graves for money while also trying to complete a ritual to fend off demons?
This idea just randomly popped into my head when I was trying to sleep one night. After Buried, I had two ideas I was going in between about. I was planning on making a prototype of both to see which one I liked more. Before I started to develop the prototypes, this idea just came to me about grave robbing. The idea to find cursed bones in the caskets came really quickly after the grave robbing idea, and it just expanded from there.
So on paper, the concept is pretty clear, right? You dig up graves, you steal from them, you take some bones, and you apply them to a ritual. But with that, the demonic activity has to be chaotic enough to make you want to do the ritual. So with that, how does the demonic activity escalate throughout the game, and how does it affect gameplay?
Each night you dig up 3 graves, loot their valuables, and then sleep. Each night you survive the demonic activity in the church as it increases and the corruption inside the church happens faster. The first couple of nights will start off creepy but manageable. By the end of the week, the game will be chaotic, terrifying, and stressful. The demon will be completely let loose and will be harassing you as much as it can. The demon will eventually kill you, especially if you allow its corruption to spread and remain active for too long. Managing the demon's activity is vital for staying alive as long as you can. There is not a set amount of days that you must play, or a maximum number of days you can survive. It will entirely depend on how well you manage the demon and its corruption with your items.
It's really exciting to hear him talk about the fact that over time there will be a progression of how you feel. It will get creepier and creepier, more chaotic and scarier. But then with that, how do the game's visuals and sound design contribute to the overall atmosphere of The Gravedigger?
The game feels very eerie and uncomfortable while you're playing. Inside the church, it is run down, dirty, and poorly lit. There isn't a welcoming color scheme to the church. and it just doesn't feel right. There is creaking coming from who knows where disembodied yells and cries can be heard, and shadows can be seen moving out of the corner of your eyes. Transitioning from the eerie, quiet tone of the church to the loud, windy outside also does not have you feeling any better. You are surrounded by walls with a forest beyond them and a field of graves waiting to be dug up. No place feels comfortable, as it shouldn't, because nowhere is safe.
Now, I've said this in the past. Even though you could be a solo developer or a solo creator, there's always at least one person or a few people that we are fortunate enough to have in our lives that have helped us in one form or another. So are there any people you'd like to give a shout out to, Authogin?
Yes, I would love to give a shout out to Mr. Keyrock, who is the voice of the Reverend at the church and who is also the voice in the trailer for the Gravedigger. I would also love to shout out Vandra O, who is the voice of the demonic entity. These two wonderful voice actors have done incredible work, and it's above and beyond what I could have ever hoped for. They are helping make my creative and horrific dreams become a reality.
A huge thank you to Authogin, a fantastic indie horror game developer, for joining me today and sharing a peek into what's inside his mind. It was a pleasure having you on the show, and I can't wait to see what terrifying creations you come up with next. If you enjoyed this interview, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more exclusive content. Stay tuned for the next episode, and until then, go play some indie horror games.